Welcome to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Brenda. And this is a podcast where we highlight educators who innovate, engage, and inspire through the use of technology. Thank you so much for joining us today for episode 30 of the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. Hi, this is Brenda Argano. Back in episode 27, we spoke with special education teacher Sarah Emmerling about how she used Freckle with her students that were all at different stages of learning. So today we had the opportunity to speak with Kristen Johnson, a combination 4-5 teacher from Alabama. She shares with us her struggles as a first-year teacher and not feeling as though she had prepared her students enough for their testing in April. So in looking for solutions online, she came across Freckle, and now she shares with us how it has made an impact on her teaching and how she uses it in her classroom today. So, without further ado, our interview with Kristen Johnson.
Welcome everybody to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. Today we're with Kristen Johnson, Alabama Teacher of the Year nominee for this year, the 2018-2019 academic year, and Kristen is also a teacher in a public school. She teaches 4th and 5th grade, combo or 4th and 5th grade. Welcome, Kristen.
Yes, welcome.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here. This is awesome.
We are so excited to have you. So we are going to be talking today about Freckle and how you're a Freckle ambassador and how you're using it in your classroom because you're using it in super cool ways. So let's start out with you just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, let our listeners know a little bit about you, your journey, and how you ended up, where you are today.
Well, I hate to say it's kind of been a boring story. So I have wanted to be a teacher since I was in the 4th grade myself. So, that the classic story, I had the best teacher ever, and she just inspired me and made me feel like it was the coolest profession in the world. But, there is nothing else in this world that I ever wanted to try, nor can imagine myself doing at this point. Just in college, jumped right in and finished in 4 years because knowing my major right off the bat, helped with that. So, and then got hired right out of college. So, and there I stayed in Tuscaloosa. So I went to college at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And stayed right there. So that's where I am.
Wow. And so where do you teach now?
I am in Duncanville, which is just outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Very, very small rural area. And I live just outside of that in McCalla, which is like a suburb of Birmingham.
And your school has, it's a pretty small school?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. We have about 500 kids, and we are about half and half Caucasian and African American. And then we have a small percentage of Hispanic, but we're predominantly African American and Caucasian.
And are you a K or TK through 5 school?
We actually got a pre-K unit this year. So now we have, the babies in there. So yeah, we are pre-K through 5, and then they go to Duncanville Middle School after they leave us.
Okay. And do you know if you have any title students, what your title ratios numbers are?
We are a Title I school. Okay. We currently have, I believe we're at 78% free and reduced lunch.
Perfect. I think that's always helpful. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's helpful for a lot of our teachers who are listening who might be in a similar scenario and in their school demographics. I think that's more common than not, is that we have some free and reduced lunch kids. And I think that gives us a little opportunity as being a title school, which means you have some devices at your school being a Title I school.
Yes. Yeah. We're very, very fortunate. With the title money, we're able to purchase devices for our kids. A lot of our kids don't have access to technology at home. They don't have internet. So I think that we have a unique opportunity in our school to kind of introduce them to technology and show them how to use it and how it can be such an amazing tool in our world. But we also have to be careful with it, so just like digital citizenship. And like I said, I think it's a unique opportunity we have.
So can you tell us how you first heard about Freckle and what was your inspiration, or what were you looking for?
Yeah. Okay. So this always cracks me up because it feels, it sounds like it's totally not true, but I feel like any teacher can think back to his or her, first year and everything's going really well. You feel like, maybe you had some hard days, but like you're kind of nailing it, right? And then all of a sudden, if you're in a testing grade, like February rolls around and all of a sudden you have that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I taught nothing. My kids know nothing. And we are testing in 2 months. And why the heck do they test us so early anyway? School's not out until the end of May, but we test in the middle of April. I mean, it is just, whew. So I had that moment. And I started panicking that I was not prepared. My kids were not prepared. And I didn't know what I could do for them on such short notice, and I started having the first year teacher doubts and feeling like I'd failed my kids. And so I was literally sitting on my couch and I'm on Pinterest one afternoon because, what else do teachers do on Saturday afternoons? And I was just scrolling through test prep. That's what I had searched. And at the time, Freckle was still called Front Row. And so it popped up Front Row Education. And it said it was an adaptive online program. I was like, that sounds perfect. Like online, adaptive, less work. I can handle that. So right there on the couch that day, I made an account and introduced it to my kids the following Monday. And they started using it in the classroom and we kind of learned it together. I definitely made the rookie error of not trying it out myself first. So I walked in like, hey guys, I have this awesome thing. Just log on and it'll be sweet. And it was pretty easy to use, but it was a learning curve. So really just trying to get my kids prepared for state testing, that thing that everyone loves to hate. So
now let's fast forward. We'll tell the story in the middle, but let's fast forward to the end. When they took the tests again or the next time, what did you see after using Freckle Front Row?
Yeah. So my first year, my test scores, my students' test scores were not great. To be completely honest, about 50% of my kids were passing or above grade level. So I didn't feel very encouraged by that. But I think that, just first year, there's no telling what I taught them or didn't teach them. But I felt like going into my second year, I'd learned a lot. And honestly, from August, my second year teaching, we were on Freckle constantly in the classroom. It was part of our routine at that point. And so by my second year teaching, we were closer to 65, 70% of my kids passing or above grade level. And then by year 3, which is last year, I only had 2 students out of my 25 not receive on or above grade level scores in both reading and math.
That's
very
fantastic.
Nice.
So you have grown as a teacher, but you feel like by having had the Freckle integration kind of as part of your routine as a supplement to your teaching, it's definitely impacted student learning.
Oh, absolutely. It has made a huge difference. It helped me learn how to differentiate. Like I learned from the program, which sounds so ridiculous, until you actually spend some time on it. And then it really doesn't sound ridiculous at all because that's what it does. And so it taught me to do that and it helped my kids grow. It has truly made a huge difference in how I teach.
Right. And then it's added to your confidence as a teacher.
Right. Yes.
And so, gosh, how did that make you feel as far as like just seeing the progress in 2 years?
Yeah. It has been, it's so crazy for me to think back on it now. Just being in the middle of my fourth year, excuse me. And I've taught 4th grade for 2 of the years by itself, and then 4th and 5th grade last year and this year. And I truly feel so much more confident. There are still things that I'm working on every single day. But when I look at that class roster at the beginning of the year, and I have kids that are all over the place as far as ability, it honestly doesn't scare me as much. I'm like, well, that's okay because I have a tool that can help me cater to each and every one of those students. So I feel much more confident with it.
Because this has made an impact in your life doesn't mean that you're going to quit now and stop growing as a teacher.
Yes. I definitely have not figured it all out. So, still have lots of things that I'm working on every day.
I feel like the more I know, the more I know I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Right. It's fascinating. Yeah. The more books I read and articles I try to consume. Yeah. It's like, wow, I'm definitely not doing anything I should be doing.
Right.
Right. Like there are so many more things
There's
that I
more.
could implement and try and use to reach these kids.
There's always more. And I think when it comes to technology, we're just constantly evolving. We're fans of Freckle, Brenda and I. And I think I shared this with you. I have my son supplementing his math homework on Freckle. I just created a teacher account, a free account, and I put him on it. And he does a little bit every day, practices his math multiplication tables, and then he works within the domains. When you first introduce this to your students, whether it's in the beginning of the academic year, how are they taking to it? Like, is there a huge learning curve for them? How do you roll this out?
Yeah, I think honestly, what I found is that introducing Freckle in the middle of like a growth mindset lesson has really been beneficial for my kids. So I'm big on growth mindset. I'm big on reminding the kids that we all have growth that we should and can achieve. And we'll talk about what it means, to not have a fixed mindset, like, no, I can't do this, right? We can always push ourselves. We can always get better. And we'll talk about that, and we'll do some activities going with that. And then I'll actually, in the middle of that, I've started saying, so we're going to do a lot of things in this classroom that will help build your growth mindset. And one of those things is this program, and it's called Freckle. And you're going to have the opportunity to go on there and have an account. It's going to find out exactly what you know. And then you're going to be able to work on your own individual levels. And I kind of have a neat opportunity being a 4th and 5th grade combo teacher. I can kind of use obviously we're not all on the same level, right? We have different ages. We have different grades in this classroom. So we don't all learn the same, and we're not all on the same level. We're just not. And that's okay. So, but this program can help us push ourselves and get better. So if you are currently working on a 2nd grade level, that's A-okay. It means that we missed something in 2nd grade, and that's totally fine. But we're going to fill those gaps, and we're going to get back where we're supposed to be. On the other hand, if you are just, a little Einstein and you are already working on 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade level, well, that's awesome. I mean, how many of you have ever sat in class and you've been super bored, right? And the teacher's just going on, and you're like, I already know how to do this. That's super frustrating. So you are going to have the opportunity to push yourself and do bigger, better things. And the kids get really excited about it when you present it like that, because the kids who are sitting there like, yeah, I know that I don't understand some stuff. In the back of their heads, they're thinking, hey, I wonder, I wonder if there's a possibility that this could actually work for me. And for the kids who, like I referred to when I was talking about, how many of you have been bored when the teacher's droning on and on about addition for the 17th time, and they're excited about the opportunity to push themselves more. So, I mean, I found that they get really excited about it when presented in that way.
That's a good time presented. I know that different strategies with different teachers, but I think if you're working with social emotional in that social emotional context, which it sounds like you do, mindset is the perfect place to start. And that's probably in the beginning of the academic year that you're doing.
Yeah, we do it. I do growth mindset activities and team building activities. We learn about Gardner's multiple intelligences. We do all of that like in the first week of school, just to kind of promote the environment that I want to create in the classroom. I feel like needs those things right off the bat. So if I can get them, thinking about those things before we actually start learning math, reading, social studies, science, like it just kind of, it sets the base for what we're going to be doing the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Do you use Freckle with different subjects?
I use it for math and reading mostly. I have not tried the science portion at all yet. I do use the social studies portion at times. I integrate a lot of my social studies because teaching 2 grades, I find that there's not enough time. I mean, there's never enough time, right? And then you have 2 grades in there, and all of a sudden you have 2 sets of standards, and it's like, there's really not enough time. So I integrate a lot of my social studies work. So, but I will use it to kind of supplement some of the activities on there the kids really get into. They have great primary and secondary sources. So I'll pull some of those. I have not tackled science yet.
And your new challenge.
Yeah, new challenge. Maybe someday.
Exactly. Something I can work on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using the education version, the full paid version.
I am. Yes. I had the free version. Okay. When I found Freckle in February of that year, I had the free version, and I had the free version the whole next year. And then my principal finally, purchased it for us last year. So I've had the full version for about a year and a half now.
And so you've really used the free version and the complete version. What is the difference?
So as with everything, with the full version, you have more capabilities. You can do more with it. So something I think that's cool about Freckle is that the free version, you can really have just as much success with your students, I believe, because they have an unlimited amount of time they can practice on their adaptive levels. And that is so unique for online programs that have a free and a paid version. I feel like so often they're timed, or you get a certain number of questions or whatever. And Freckle does not do that from the kids version, from the student version. Now, as a teacher on the free version, I was only able to assign 3 assignments per month, which for a long time, that was more than enough. And then when I started using it on a constant basis, I found that I needed a lot more than 3 assignments. So now having the full version, I'm able to push out more assignments that I want the students working on, but I mean, the students could definitely just get on and do the adaptive practice and still be working on their own levels and still be growing. So I love that about the free version.
And the reporting's a little different. Weekly reporting versus like historical reporting, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the full version, you can go back a lot farther. I'm trying to remember now. I think the free, you can only get the month, whereas with the full, I can go back, a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year. I mean, I can manipulate that a little bit more. And then, I also have access to like more summative reporting and like report cards for the students that I can send home so parents can see progress.
And grouping. I think there's a grouping mechanism, right? Where you can see like which kids per standard.
There is. Yeah, absolutely. And it'll group it. I really like it because you can manipulate it to do mixed ability grouping or same ability grouping. So depending, I know different teachers feel differently about that. I can honestly argue that both of them are so important just at different times. Mm-hmm. So I like that using Freckle, I can actually access both, pieces of data.
That's really helpful if you're in a blended learning classroom or you're using, and probably in your case, you have 2 grade levels. So station rotations might be really helpful for you to manage time. And you're self-contained, right? So you teach all subjects both grade levels?
Yes, I am. They are in there all the time. they just never leave.
It's all Mrs. Johnson all the time. Do your kids loop with you? So in other words, your 4th graders now will have you again for 5th grade, or could they end up somewhere else?
They're not technically locked in there. Like if a student or a parent or an administrator felt like that student would have a better fit somewhere else, then they could move out. But the way that it's worked so far, yes, they've looped with me.
That is kind of a nice thing. My sister had a looping class one year, and because now these guys, mm-hmm. right? They know your routines.
Oh, yeah.
They're not learning someone else's nuances or someone else's classroom rules. They got it. So, and then it's their responsibility as 5th graders to then teach the new 4th graders like how this is going to work.
Right. It's been so, I think there are a lot of benefits to looping. Just like you said, we don't waste time at the beginning of the year trying to get to know each other. I know those kids and they know me. So, and not that my classroom doesn't change a little bit from year to year, but the same basic things are still going to be my general ground rules. And, so we don't waste a whole lot of time at the beginning of the year. And just like you said, yeah, those 5th graders, it's so awesome to watch the 5th graders become mentors for the 4th graders. I love it. And the first day of school looks a lot different in my classroom. Instead of me talking the entire day, the 5th graders talk to the 4th graders the entire day. And the 4th graders ask questions. 5th graders share projects and experiences from last year to get them excited about the year. So it's definitely been really neat. And I found too, which this is kind of a pro and a con, the more difficult students, typically the boys who are just in a weird phase in their life, 10, 11, 12 years old, that gets kind of dicey.
I have one of those. I have one.
Yes. I found that they do a lot better having me for 2 years. So same basic idea. Like they already know me and I know them. So we just don't take a whole lot of time getting to know each other the second year. We can jump right into it. Like I said, I guess that's kind of a con too, because I end up with a lot of crazy boys. But I love the relationships we're able to build.
Yeah. They tend to be, some of them tend to be very active.
Yeah. Like bouncing off the walls active.
Yeah. But you know that about them. And kind of after a year, you've gotten to know what they're, what pushes their buttons and what makes them tick. And you're not passing that information now onto someone else who they're building a new relationship with. You get to really,
Yeah. And I do, my classroom is kind of funky. If, you're a type A personality and you walk in there, you'd probably have a heart attack. So, but I do have flexible seating. So there are like those balance balls rolling around everywhere and wobble stools. And, it's just craziness in there. But going back, especially like those more active students, they respond well to it.
Yeah.
So, and especially having them for 2 years, I kind of know what seats benefit them the most. And it takes teachers a while to figure out what type of teaching students respond best to as well. So having them for 2 years, I kind of get a little bit of like a grace period, even if it takes me a few months to figure this student out, that's okay. Cause I still have all of next year.
Right. And so when you're in that time frame, cause now you've got them for 2 years, they're on Freckle for 2 years. Is anybody else in your school using Freckle or is it just you?
Yeah. So, the first full year I used it, I got my grade level onto it because my principal would not listen to me. And so I figured if I could get some other teachers, using it, then he would be more inclined to listen to what I had to say. And so I started telling the teachers about it. They started using it in their classrooms, really enjoyed it as well. So then we went to, that was my 4th grade team. We went to the 5th grade team and we're like, okay, y'all listen, this is a really neat program. It doesn't require a lot from you as the teacher, which everyone likes to hear. And so 5th grade started using it. Then we went to 3rd grade next, naturally, kind of sticking with the upper level grades. And at this point, the kindergarten doesn't use it as much. They kind of struggle through, just life in general, I think some days. So they're not fully into technology just yet. But 1st grade through 5th grade uses Freckle, pretty much standardly throughout the day.
And can you tell us like a step-by-step about how you run Freckle or what you use?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use it in a couple different ways. My favorite way to use it, and probably the way we use it the most, is just in our math and reading centers. Because I have 2 grades, I do not teach whole group lessons at all anymore. And so my day consists of just pulling small groups constantly. So I need the other students to have something that they can be working on. And I need it to be engaging, but I need it to be meaningful. So I made the mistake, when I first started doing that, of just like the center work that you're apt to find on Google or whatever it is. And I wasted a lot of copies, wasted a lot of time. The students were not getting much out of it. Students were off task. So then I'm wasting my small group time, yelling at students across the room. So when I started using Freckle in our centers, it made a big difference. So my favorite way to use it is that students just get on there. And I actually have a domain of the day in math. So students know that on Mondays, we are in the geometry domain. On Tuesdays, we're in operations and algebraic thinking, and so on and so forth. And they know that. We have a board to remind them, of course, but they know what they're supposed to be working on. So on a Monday, when they are not with me at small group, they have a couple of activities they're supposed to be working on and that are due to me on Friday. But something that they need to do every day is check off their technology time. And that just means that they hop on Freckle for 20 minutes and get in that domain. And some days I'll even assign a specific standard. So I'll use the targeted practice feature and give students a specific standard that I want them tested on. I usually do that when I'm trying to do a quick like formative assessment for them. So I'm getting ready to change groups, or I'm really low on grades, like whatever the case may be. And I'll push that out to them. And it really is just a really easy way. And again, it's engaging and it's meaningful to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the way we use it most. And the same basic idea in reading. In their reading centers, they know that they're supposed to get on Freckle and they can choose. I let my students choose, even in 4th and 5th grade, choose whether they want to do a fiction article or a nonfiction article. I am so excited that Freckle has added fiction stories on there. That's fairly new. So students can choose that, or they can even do word study. Some of our students really need help with word study. So especially being Title I, we're a little bit lower, as far as reading goes. So that's just really beneficial that they can hop on and do that.
And is that similar to like a flashcard type of?
It is. It'll pop up, and again, it kind of depends on where they are. So it depends. Sometimes they're studying like spelling if you're farther along in it, or students will even just be listening to words and identifying like vowels and vowel sounds. And I know that sounds crazy in a 4th and 5th grade classroom, but we have students who struggle with that. So we have students who don't know all of their sight words. So by using that feature on Freckle, it's something that I don't have time to pull my students for. In upper grades, we're more working on comprehension, but they're still getting that work.
That's great. Do you have a lot of English language learners in your population, or is that not too much?
Not so much. No, I have 2 students this year who are classified as ELL. They do get pulled in the mornings, and so they'll go and do a program that our school has, and they do receive those services. But they're farther along. Like I think they're level 3, so they're getting ready to test out of that.
Got it. So looking at your, looking at your data and the growth of your students, what would you tell a teacher who's like, I don't know, I'm thinking about this. We have some curriculum. I'm not really fond of it. Is this a supplement? Is this a replacement?
I think it can be whatever you want it or need it to be. When I first started using Freckle, I still used our curriculum. I have since then thrown it out the window. But at the time, I still used it, and I used Freckle just to kind of supplement. Again, it kind of broke it back down for students who were on lower working levels or higher working levels, and they were bored with me in class or confused with me in class. And so I think that it could work. I mean, you could teach your math lesson like normal and then have students break into rotations and work on Freckle, or you could have students come in the morning and for morning work on Freckle. You could even have one of our teachers in our school does a rotation, like she numbered her students 1 through however many she has. I think she has 24. But 1 through 24 and like 1 through 5 know that they are supposed to get an iPad and get on Freckle on Monday mornings when they come in. So you could easily set up a system like that if you have a school curriculum that you are required to use or that you enjoy using. For me, since I do not use our curriculum anymore, it's been a really good supplement for that. I mean, obviously, the students need to work on something. So, it's been a really easy way for them to hit those standards.
And then when you're pulling them, you're focused on much more direct and targeted and intentional work at their level.
Yes. And to be completely honest, very often in my small groups, we do not use Freckle. I have really found that for me, it works best for the students when they are away from me. Mm-hmm. Not that it wouldn't be beneficial in our small group, but I find that I'm more just teaching directly to the student. So, but I have in the past pulled up Freckle articles or quizzes and said, you know what, I noticed all of you really did poorly on this fraction assessment I gave you. I'd really like us to look at some of these questions and see maybe if like the wording threw us off or what happened here. And so we've used it as teaching points before. But typically, yeah, when I call them back, it's more just me directly teaching.
Perfect. So you're doing small group, like direct instruction in a really small group, and then they're using Freckle out in their independent time or computer time.
Right.
And about how much time would you say that you are spending, or how much time are the students spending on Freckle a week, say?
For both math and reading combined,
Yes.
they probably spend about 45-ish minutes a day. So a couple hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So 20-ish minutes on each subject.
Okay. Yeah, ish. And my students have gotten to where at the beginning of the year, I'm kind of like a dictator, so I tell them you have to be like, I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes. You have to be on technology for this 20 minutes. Okay, go, and then, okay, for this 20 minutes, you are working on whatever assignment I've given you, whatever center booklet or choice board you're doing. Okay, go. Just because they're so unaware of time management. So, and once we've kind of worked on that a little bit and I've trained them a little bit more in that, now we have an hour and 40-ish minute math block that I'm able to use, and my students block their time themselves. So some students probably spend more than 20 minutes on Freckle one of their days, and they might spend less on it. But now they kind of know, sort of, like how much time they should be spending on it each week.
That's cool.
But because of the internet situation in their homes, they don't take this home to work on it.
No, they don't. Now, I do have a couple of students who have access to internet at home, or they use a smartphone and do it. Freckle does work on all devices. I can pull it up on my phone. It's not very easy to use on cell phones. I mean, obviously, like trying to do a math problem on a screen, this big. So it's not ideal, but I do have students who have worked on it at home. So, I mean, actually, I gave a fraction assessment just yesterday and in my classroom, and I had sent out Thursday evening just a couple of fraction assignments that would look similar to the test. And so I told students, if you have access to technology, whether you're an after school at the school or you have technology at home and you want to pull this up and have mom or older brother, whoever, sit with you, you can do that. And
what would you say your students' reaction is? Do they enjoy working on Freckle, or is it?
Oh, they love it. But I have such a spirit of competitiveness, and I think it infuses in the classroom. So, oh yeah, we have like a leaderboard. We compete for coins earned. We compete for growth. We compete, and by growth, I mean like we talk about the levels that we've grown. We track it in our student data binders. We have a house system at our school. So that's our school-wide discipline. And so all the students are sorted into a house. And so when you earn a certain number of coins or you grow a number of levels, I'll make a big show of it. Like you can get up on a table and we'll cheer for you and you'll get 5 points for your house. So, I mean, oh yeah, the students love Freckle. But like I did kind of manipulate them a little bit, like to kind of get them into it. There are teachers in our school who only use Freckle in the computer labs, and their students don't enjoy it as much as mine do. So I think that that's important as a teacher. Students can tell if something you're giving them is just kind of busy work for them, or if you really believe in it. And so my students know that I believe Freckle works. And when they see their growth and I can pull it up on the computer and we're tracking it in their binders and stuff, once they see themselves start growing, they get more excited about being on it. So it becomes more intrinsic.
I can't stress enough how that intrinsic motivation for a student is so important. And my goodness, they're so passionate about a pig. Like,
right. Yeah, JT is the cutest thing ever.
Like they wanna outfit him and get him some swag and the coins. I mean, the coins too. I mean, everybody loves coins. Don't get me wrong, but like
and going shopping and you can change the background on it and stuff. And who'd have thought? I mean, 11-year-old boys, they are all about that basketball background. Yeah. Like that is the end all be all.
And it's a pig. Like, I just keep going back to, that's not what I would expect, but it's the gamification. It's that motivation, try again, fail fast, fail forward, keep, learn from your mistakes. And how do your students like when they make a mistake and then they see the video, kind of the reteaching video popping up? Is that something that your students like or dislike?
So my students, about half of them will actually watch the video and learn from it. To be honest, the other half of my class see the video pop up. They completely ignore the video. Like, I almost feel like if you ask them, did you know a video popped up? They would tell you no.
It was just something I had to click on to get out of my way because I was trying to see the rest of the screen.
No, this annoying like pop-up just came up. But interestingly enough, they pay attention to the names. I love that feature. So no, they don't care that the video's there that can totally show them how to do it. But they care about those 2 or 3 little names that come up under the video. So they know that they can go ask those students for help. Mm-hmm. And kind of going back to what I was talking about, the peer tutoring that goes on in the classroom, because I have the 2 grades, that just works really well with Freckle too. So they see someone's name on the screen. They're used to asking each other for help. They're used to teaching each other. So they use that feature a lot.
That's interesting. So, because I have the free version and I only have 1 kid in my class, mine. So there is no other names that pop up. So I didn't know that. That's very, very interesting. And
it's really cool. It is one of my absolute favorite things about the program. Yeah. So it just tracks like what standard that student's working on, and it'll look at what other students in the class have mastered that standard, and it'll put their names up for reference.
That is so cool.
That is really nice.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow.
So is there any problems with the kids as far as like knowing that Becky's on level 18 and I'm only on 16, or so-and-so's on level 30, and is there any competition or feeling bad about yourself and where you are? Or is there a way that they even know?
I think, well, they know. Yeah, they know. So I do not advertise your level in the class. Students have access to their levels in their student data binders. But unless you're actually going to pull that out and compare them, I don't necessarily write, Johnny's on level 4 and Susie's on level 14 on the board or anything like that. But I mean, they're well aware which students are higher. And that's why we talk about growth. So I'm pretty serious in my classroom. I am not going to celebrate you because you're on the highest level. I'm going to celebrate you because you grew the most this last month. So whether you started on level 1 or 100, if you grew from 1 to 6, I'm celebrating you more than the person who went from 100 to 101. So, and we just kind of talk about that. I think it takes some learning, and it's not perfect. But kind of going back to just the intrinsic motivation, I want my kids to be excited about them getting better, whatever that means for them.
Well, and the fact that you're doing the domains each day, so you have a domain a day. There's five math domains. I think that's really cool because I might rock it on the geometry, and I might vomit on the fractions. And so when I'm, so Mondays might be easier days for me because on Monday's geometry day, and I'm going to be like, yes, I'm on level, 36. And then on Tuesday, when it comes to, one that I'm not so great on, working with fractions and that kind of stuff, which is a true statement. Tuesdays might be tougher days for me. And you'll know that because you'll see the data that's coming through. And that data is so key. But it doesn't matter because everyone's working on, everyone's going to be at different levels, and killing it on something and bombing it on the other. And that's okay.
Or English versus math.
Oh, I might. Yeah. I don't like, you're an English kid, or like, I'm just really not a math person. I don't like those stereotypes. But, typically, if you feel really passionate about math, you probably don't feel as passionate about English, and vice versa. So that's where we get those labels, right? Like I'm a math kid or I'm an English kid. There are exceptions to the rule, but typically we see someone stronger in one than another. But even within those domains, you're stronger within some that, like spelling, not a domain that I am going to excel in. Not so much. But writing, I can write and reading and comprehension. So go figure. Yeah.
Well, and that's cool. Like when we talk about, when I mentioned those names coming up, it really is fascinating that it's not always the same kids on every, we definitely, like some of my lower achievers in math really rock at geometry because it's kind of a different niche in itself. And so some of my lower students always come up first in geometry. So that's just a neat opportunity for them too.
Yeah.
You know, like they kind of get that moment like, hey, I'm good at this.
And I can tutor someone. Spatial awareness, that's geometry is a spatial awareness, and that's kids playing Minecraft and video games.
Right.
Is giving them, that's what we're noticing too in the education space, is we see kids with spatial awareness who are like video gamers, but they're not necessarily going to be high on all these other levels. But if they can rock geometry and spatial awareness, you're like, oh, well, those are tougher concepts to grasp.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah. Geometry is my low point. So like I do no geometry ever.
I might've got kicked out of geometry. It's possible.
No. We won't touch that.
But I'm a big fan. I'm excited to get into Freckle and dig a little deeper.
I was going to ask you one more thing. If you've ever used technology and have had a major fail.
Literally every day. Yeah, no. I'm a really fly by the seat of my pants person, so I have a lot of fails a lot of the time.
Can you give us one example?
Okay, so those times when your principal is like, hey, I'm observing you on this day at this time. So you make sure that you have technology integrated, right? Because that's always a big thing. So, okay, perfect. So my students are going to be able to pop on our classroom blog and click the link. It's going to take them to a Nearpod, which if you're not familiar with, it's similar to PowerPoint, but it's a little bit more interactive for the kids. So it pops up and it actually locks them in there so they can't be exploring other websites. But you can embed polls into it. You can have them like draw their answers and display them on the screen. I was like, this is going to be sweet. Okay. So the first issue was I had written the blog page down incorrectly on our board. So all the kids are typing it in and it's not coming up. It's like page not found. Okay. So figure that problem out. That's okay. Laugh it off. Everything's fine. Well, then the link's not working. So I'm on my computer trying to like resend out the link and trying to re-upload it. And, you have all the students because students don't really understand yes, I know there's an issue. Give me just a second. I'm working on it. They're just Miss Johnson, mine's not working. No, yours along with everyone else. I know it's not working. Okay. And so my principal's in the back and like, he's got a big smile on his face. I'm literally like dying inside. My face has got to be like blood red and, get the link. Everything's fine. Okay. So the students click on it. We're a solid 20 minutes into the lesson at this point. It's been a complete bust. Students finally click the link and, and we start going through it. And I had not saved the final presentation. So like all of the work I put into it at home, like everything, all of those polls and those drawing and stuff, it never saved. So I had like the intro page and then the first slide, and then it was like end of show. I was like,
oh no.
And I would love to say that was like totally just like one in a million, but that's actually like, I really wasn't that surprised. The kids really weren't that surprised. Like it was just another still mortifying, but just
right.
Wow. What did your principal say afterwards? Good job on being. I would have said good job on being like the grit and determination of like pivot.
Yeah. My principal and I have a really good relationship. He's a really, really good guy and he's very understanding. So he was very kind to me. We rescheduled. He came in and observed me on another day. And that one went a lot better. So
great.
But he has come in there before when, the idea to have students on technology when you're pulling small groups is always really good until the internet's down. So, and that has happened to me 1,000 times too. I had no backup plan. You're always supposed to have a backup plan. I know this, but I never actually have the backup plan. So, it literally, it happens all the time.
Yep. And you survived, right?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It really is like, in the moment it's terrifying. And then I don't know, my personality, I laugh it off, get over it. It's totally fine. It's a new day.
And that's important,
do it all over again.
right?
Well, that's what you're teaching your students though, too.
Right.
You know, like it never fails. You go out to do a tech PD or a tech workshop and something doesn't,
Right.
you know, we don't have the right adapter. Or we can't,
Right.
like the TV doesn't turn on and light bulb burns out on the
Right.
projector. And I'm like, it would not be a tech workshop if we actually had all the tech working. Like we expect,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter. I carry a bag of adapters and batteries and
Light bulbs.
I try to carry everything, but like there's the one
Yep.
dongle that is missing out of my bag is the one I would have needed today.
Yep,
No, that teaches grit.
It
That
does.
shows your students like, okay, this didn't work. Let's try something else. Oh, you know what? It's no longer math class anymore. We've now just pivoted. It's now science. And you're like, pick up math
That's
after
right.
lunch. You know,
Today's just not a math day.
yeah. Today we're doing something
We
else.
really need math though, right? Like, we don't need
Not
to do
today.
that.
Not today.
today.
There's no reason to do that every day.
Taking a time out and just moving on. No, I think I think that shows you know, a lot of really good character on your part and that just sets a good tone in your classroom. So you might have some things that you want to share with our listeners, some materials and things that you've used to kind of help yourself align with Freckle. Can you share with us a little bit about those, and then we'll definitely put a link to where those materials are stored in our show notes at mytechtoolbelt.com.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started using Freckle, I created several documents. My school at the time was a lighthouse school. So we used the Leader in Me, the 7 Habits. And we have since moved on from that discipline program. But at the time, it was really important to us. And part of that, if you're not familiar with it, they're really big on data tracking. So all the students have to track data. Teachers need to be able to pull that data. Students need to be able to explain what that data is, where it came from. They actually do student-led conferences with it. So I created all kinds of tracking sheets for my students that we still use, even though we have moved on from the Leader in Me program. And so I have all of those. If you want your students to start tracking their own progress, I think it's really beneficial for the students. First of all, I think they need to learn how to track their data. They need to learn how to set goals and kind of make action steps toward working toward those goals. So I have all of those. I have a math one and a reading one. And the reading actually has a word study attached to it as well. If you teach younger grades, or I mean, if you teach older grades and your students still need word study work. And then I also have a sheet that explains like what the levels correlate to grade level wise. So that's beneficial for the teacher as well as for the student. So my students actually have a copy of it in their binders. So they know that if they're on level, whatever, 8 in fractions, that they are on a 4th grade level. And again, I think that's important, even if students are a little bit lower, because I mean, everyone needs to know where they are, right? I mean, whether it's below grade level, on or above, you still need to know where you are. So I have that. And then I do have a couple of like just reward stickers. I have some choice boards that incorporate Freckle into them. So if you're into using choice boards or you want to be into them and you're also trying to do the Freckle thing on top of that, I've already made those so it's integrated. I just kind of a montage of random stuff. But it is totally available. And I mean, anyone can have it, use it, edit it, share it, whatever. And so actually, I'm totally willing to give my email out. It's K.E. Johnson. So KEJOHNSON at tcss.net. So if you want to email me personally and get links to those, or if you just want to chat or have questions or whatever, that's an easy way to reach me. I check it all the time. But I'll also send out my my blog site so that you guys can access it on there too. That's probably a little bit easier if you just want to click through and kind of see what applies to you. I do have a Teachers Pay Teachers account that has some free stuff on there related to Freckle. So, and that name is Pencils and Pedagogy. So that's my name on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I also have an Instagram with the same name that I post just random stuff that's going on in our classroom every day.
Awesome.
Great. Are you on Twitter?
I am not on Twitter. Okay. I kind of missed that boat. So I like
it's not too late. It's still there.
maybe I'll make one.
We'll swing by and pick you up on the harbor.
So my mom, was like super strict when I was growing up. So I never had a MySpace. I was not allowed to be on there. So then when Facebook came around, I was old enough. So I got on Facebook, and then I don't know, it was like I was so late joining the social media game that I just never, it all went so quick. It was like Facebook and Twitter popped up and then Instagram was there. And honestly, the only reason I have an Instagram is because several of my teacher friends did. And I just found that it was such an easy way to connect with teachers around the world. So I started doing that. But like I said, I just kind of missed the Twitter boat. So maybe I'll hop on it, and see what
I'm a huge fan of Twitter as being part of your personal learning network and for your own professional growth. It's one of the things I really do encourage all my students who are teachers to get on. It is a space. It can be overwhelming. So if you want to reach out, I have some recommendations and guidelines. Brenda wants me to put a little video together on Twitter for teachers, and so that may be coming up pretty soon. I think it's really beneficial.
Absolutely. I'm totally open to trying anything. So
and as long as you're really intentional and purposeful, I think And then we'll make a really good recommendation is check out the Q on.q.org blog. And there's a lot of really good information there, a lot of little just snippets of information, recommendations on following other teachers and things like that. And from there, once you're on Twitter, you'll start seeing those people pop up again and again. But a lot of really good stuff on the blog there.
And one other question that I always like to ask everyone is, are there any books that you would recommend to other teachers, either that have made an impact on you, either professionally or personally?
So I'm a huge reader. If you are not familiar with BookBub, I don't really know what it is. I guess it's like a website. They email me every week, and they have free and reduced price books. And the way it works is they send me an email every Saturday. I look forward to it. And I can go on there and I don't know, anywhere from like 20 to 40 books will be on this email, and I can just scroll down and click on a link, and it'll take me straight to the Amazon page that will deliver it to my Kindle. So I do use a Kindle, and it is the easiest way to get free books. And I'll go on there and just download all the books. So if you aren't familiar with that, I would say try that. I thought there was no way it was real because it took me 2 seconds to sign up, but I have read so many books from there.
And these are somewhat contemporary books? They're not like books that were made in the 1920s?
Oh, no. Yeah. These are like, so I think that what it is it's authors who are trying to just get people to read their stuff and to get the reviews on Amazon so that obviously, they'll get more publicity and go from there. So every now and then you'll get one that's just really a dud. But usually they're decent books, and you can select your own preferences. So there are professional ones and personal, just kind of growing you. And then I have like all the romance and psychological thrillers selected. So I get all that good stuff. So I love that. So that's like the website that I'd recommend. As far as specific books, okay, I love Kids Deserve It. That's a good one. I also really loved Be the Wild Card by Hope and Wade.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. That's funny. That came from another friend of ours too that recommended that. I think that.
Yeah, well, it's new, fairly new. I think within the last year or two. So, that one's pretty popular right now, but it's really good, and I think it really just encourages teachers to be themselves. But it gives you some tips for how to unleash just like your inner roar. So, I think that's a good one, and then. If you're looking for just a really, really good, happy book, well, I guess it's really not all that happy, but it just makes you feel good on the inside. Pay It Forward. That one's in my mind just because I just read it to my class this past week. Oh my gosh. Woo. Like
what did
tears.
They think?
That Jack just finished that in his class too. He's in 5th grade.
Oh, they loved it. Yeah. So I was really apprehensive about reading it to them just because it is a mature book. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was so sweet. They started doing little things in our classroom and paying it forward to each other. They were telling everyone in the school, like their friends, peers, as well as adults. We have the lunchroom staff now reading it together. So it started a movement in our school. It was fantastic. So that's kind of on my brain, on my heart right now. So
that's good. I like that.
That's awesome.
That was a good one.
That's a great list. Thank you.
Yeah. This has been a great afternoon spending it with you. We have, we're, like I said, we're big friends of Freckle, and we're so grateful that you're doing what you're doing at your school and just sharing all the information with all the teachers that, you're reaching locally and now globally. So thank you for today. And
thank you guys. I mean, I am so this is mind blowing to me that I even have the opportunity to hang out with you guys today. I just cannot wrap my head around it. It is so surreal. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
We're honored to have you on our show. So thank you for doing it. And so we'll have all the information on links to your website, links to your materials, your email address. Everything will be on your episode page on the mytechtoolbelt.com website. And what else, Brenda? Any last closing words?
It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. So keep doing the good work, and we will fight in the good fight. We'll keep promoting you and promoting Freckle. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
we're out. Thanks for listening to the MyTech Toolbelt podcast. If you have enjoyed listening, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or send us some feedback on our website, mytechtoolbelt.com. We would love to hear from you. This will help us deliver the content that you want to hear. Thanks, and we're out.